You've got it tuned into Audio Oasis here on KEXP. I am your host, Eva Walker, and I am in the in-studio space, the live studio space, with Dark Smith. Hey, y'all.
Hey. Hello.
And we're going to talk a little afterwards. So they're going to start with 2 songs right now. Do you want to tell us what you're playing?
Yeah, we're playing a new song, our new single actually off our album called Waiting, followed by Prehysteria.
All right, let's do it.
Drag me out to the stars and let me pick another planet. Name it Oblivion, Oblivion. The world is ending and I feel nothing, I feel nothing. But consumed by the atmosphere. The world is ending and I feel nothing, I feel nothing, but consumed by the atmosphere. Pray for me as I burn and christen me so I'm the mother. It's all I want to kill the sun. Bound my body to the shell. Dare to leave me at the altar. I'll keep my vow ready now. The world is ending. burn the village down.
That is Dark Smith. You are listening to Audio Oasis here on KEXP, and we have Dark Smith in the studio. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Wow. So you just played Prehysteria, and you started this off with Waiting. So Prehysteria, that record was my number one choice of 2018 albums last year, and that remains true. Just to address that record before we talk about the new one. So Prehysteria starts off, the first line on the first song of the record is Americans' youth is going gray. And that really stood out to me. It's parallel to Funkadelic's record title, America Eats Its Young. And so I was curious with Americans' youth is going gray. Why did you start the album? Why is that the first line of the album? Or maybe there isn't a reason for that. Maybe it was a coincidence. But what do you mean by that statement? I thought that was interesting.
I never really thought about the placement of it opening the first song of the first EP in our first release. But thinking about it now, I think it was kind of like by osmosis. I think it was for a reason, but it wasn't maybe cerebral. But I think that was very much like the mindset of thinking about the world and the space we're living in. Both like culturally, socially, politically, and thinking about where everyone is kind of, probably specifically, in this space, in Seattle, on the West Coast, in America, in Western culture, but also beyond that, and thinking about, okay, we're seeing a lot of disillusionment and kind of alienation and a lot of shared feelings, but in pockets that are very isolated. So trying to kind of stretch our arms out and tap into all of that, and then kind of give it a voice and give it a lens and kind of just attack it. And I think that was, if we were to write a thesis of Dark Smith, I think you would start with that. Yeah.
So if you're wondering who's speaking, if you're listening right now, that is Danny Denial, the lead singer and synth player of the band. We have Ash Tempest on guitar. Hey, Ash. Hey. Leah Lovecraft on bass. Hello, Leah. And Nazami Momo on the drums.
Hello.
I just realized, I should probably introduce the band by name so everyone knows who they're talking to or who they're listening to, right?
Yeah.
So you have a new record, Digressive. Very excited about it. As a band, the more you all grow, what do you envision your audience looking like? Either with this record or with this newer record?
It's funny. We've actually talked a little bit about it because when we started with Prehysteria, I think we started with the idea of the very beginning of what would dream punk sound like? Because Ash, was bringing kind of really heavy guitar, kind of metal stuff, and I wanted to experiment more with kind of some maybe shoegaze, new wave kind of tone. So we started with that kind of maybe not soundscape stuff because everything is pretty hooky and their structure, but just sonically, you hear it in some of our songs, especially on Prehysteria. But then as we played more, we got more aggression from audiences, right?
Well, I think it really, if you were to look at us as a band, I think you'd get a good idea of who we're trying to connect with, and that's just kind of anyone and everyone who's willing to connect with us. And if you were to listen to us individually, especially if you're a musician, you can hear what individual people are doing. I think you'll also hear that we have a very diverse range of kind of musical backgrounds as well as all other types of backgrounds, So I really love being in this band for that reason, because I feel like whether it's someone who's in their teens or in their 50s, I feel like I can share this band with them and say, hey, I think you'd actually kind of get into it.
Yeah.
And I know you all individually, and that's a good point, Nazmi, that you all have different musical backgrounds. And when I come up with these questions for the in-studio, I want them to be meaningful and in-depth, you know what I mean? And so I am going to ask sort of a general question because I am curious, because you do come from different musical backgrounds. How did you all end up together and start playing together? And what does Dark Smith mean? Is that something you all came up with? Or Nazmi points to Danny.
Okay, the Dark Smith part. Well, yeah, the Darksmith part, I will take the name blame of that.
It brought us
Was
together. That's what
Candlelight
I meant.
Catastrophe, I think, was the other idea.
Yes, and I think
I'm glad we
Prehysteria
decided-
was an idea
yeah.
too. Actually, that was one of your ideas, Prehysteria, which I loved Prehysteria, but then I wasn't sure if it was our band name, and then it became our EP name. For me, maybe I'll speak to the name thing if you want to speak to how we got together, because I think you probably remember that better
That
than
was
I do.
pretty- I mean, that was like, it was just Facebook musician.
Yeah, Danny, I feel like you kind of brought everyone together, didn't
It was
you? Or I don't
Ash and
know.
I. Yeah, we met
We
up
wrote-
first.
Yeah, we wrote most of
Thought
it.
about Drink Punk.
Yeah. Yeah, and wrote most of the first one together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of like put our song ideas together. I think you had a lot of really cool, like, really great, like, big heavy riffs, and like you were also working with soundscapes, and that was kind of leaning into that idea. And
I
then
think I convinced you to play synth too. Because you
Yeah.
didn't want to.
You did. You did, actually. I just knew I didn't want to play guitar, but I didn't. I think I even auditioned synth players, and I was like, no,
Oh,
we
yeah.
need to get a real synth player. And so, in the process of us auditioning, I like bought some keyboards, and I like played keyboard for the
And you were
first
like,
time
never
in my
mind, I'll
life.
do it.
Honestly, I never really. I just like figured it out song by song, and I still don't know how to play keyboards, but I figured it out for the songs. And then the name part, I really. Like Darksmith, the entity, I think formed really organically, and then the name I'd always thought like, the band I want it to be called Darksmith because it is a character in a Greg Araki film called Nowhere, and I really loved the film, and I really loved the idea of that character, and it was from like the early '90s, and it really resonates today because just feeling kind of that impending doom and like every day is the end of the world, and obviously, as you can see from our album, that's all we write about.
It feels perfect now.
So, Danny, this question is specifically for you. In an interview that you did, I believe it was the Monarch Review, you mentioned that it's important for you to be truthful and not necessarily a people pleaser, and it's important to be a mouthpiece when responding to social and political issues. What is the newest record, Digressive, a mouthpiece for?
Well, I think if Prehysteria was kind of setting up a landscape for where we've been and where we've come, you know, like kind of like addressing like cyclical things that affect us today that have kind of happened between like systemic oppression and kind of a cycle of powers that be kind of constantly some way oppressing and kind of keeping you down in your strata. I think with Digressive, it's moved into what forward. So I think a lot of that leans in also into kind of that apocalyptic feeling of, okay, everything's kind of coming to a head and imploding all around us, but we're going to, if not persevere, just kind of stand forward and exist loudly. And I think that's what aggressive really is. That's why I think we actually ended up tracking with Caravan Recordings in Portland, who had done a lot of really good aggressive records. And kind of what we were talking about earlier with the audiences, our audiences also were really kind of aggressive, and it was a really potent and like it was a really strong energy that we got at our live shows, and I think it reflected into the music that we were writing. It's feeling like, okay, we're here, we know how we all feel, but now how are we reacting to it? So I think this record is more reactive to a lot of the themes and elements and landscape we kind of set up with the first one. And so that's just kind of being really digressive. Just saying, okay, well,
That's great.
the world's kind of falling apart, but we'll go out in style if we have to. Or we'll build a new one, or we have options. We're gonna not necessarily just like sit down and lay our corpses into grounds and go to bed. We'll be really awake.
That's the Danny I know.
That's all I got.
So you're all going to play 2 more songs for us, but before you do, you just released the record cover for Digressive, and we have to talk about that. So Nazmi's baby picture is the cover.
I thought it was a joke.
And I want to know how that came to be and who decided on that. Nazmi apparently didn't know.
Okay. There was a period of using baby pictures for things, and then that one was in the queue, in the group thread somewhere. And, I think we never really knew exactly what we wanted for the image, but seeing a picture of Nazmi as a most adorable baby in the entire world, looking at the camera, biting her pacifier, and accidentally flipping the camera off, felt like the vibe.
I really thought it was a joke, and I remember in our Facebook group, in our private Facebook group, Danny sends us a link of the Bandcamp with my baby picture on there, with like Digressive, Darksmith on there, and I said, "Oh, that's weird. What's that doing there?" And I guess everyone else knew it was the album cover except me. I still thought it was a joke. It didn't really sink in until I got the hard copy today, and I looked at it. I'm like, "Yeah, that's little baby me."
Baby you.
It's real. I have the hard copy. All right. Well, you have two more songs for
Yeah.
us. You've been listening to Darksmith here on Audio Oasis on KEXP. I'm your host, Eva Walker. You're going to play Leave You Alone Forever and end with Killer Whale,
Yes.
right? Awesome. This is
Really heavy and fun.
this is Darksmith here on Audio Oasis.
No one likes to say it, but it's true. No one likes to say it, but it's true. No one likes to say it, but it's. Yeah, I bring out a wicked streak in you. You're acting out in ways you never do. You're acting out in ways you never do. You're acting out in ways you never, ever. Let me siphon one more night. Let me try on all your clothes. Let me bump just one more high, and then I'll leave you alone forever. I'm your favorite parasite. You're the host I love the most. Let me try just one more time, then I'll leave you alone forever. Forever, forever, forever. Forever, forever, forever. Yeah, I'm gonna psychotic mode and grind. But when you leave me hanging on the line, when you leave me hanging on the line, when you leave me hanging on the line, yeah, I know it's almost killing time. Scrub away the gray hair looking slime. Scrub away the gray hair looking slime. Scrub away all the gray hair. Let me siphon one more night. Let me try on all your clothes. Let me bump just one more high, and then I'll leave you alone forever. I'm your favorite parasite. You're the host I love the most. Let me try just one more time, then I'll leave you alone forever. Forever, forever, forever. Forever, forever, forever. Let me ghost all of your friends, and I'll leave you alone forever. I'm your favorite parasite. You're the host I love the most. Let me bump just one more high, and then I'll leave you alone forever. Forever, forever, forever. Forever, forever, forever. Forever, forever, forever. Forever, forever, forever.
This song is called Killer Whale.
Forever,
discontent. Family lines discontent. Armageddon, hurry up. The kids have waited long enough. Now every day's another storm, another storm. I wish that I was never.
I've got a message for the master race. You're about to be replaced. You're about to be replaced. You're about to be replaced. I see the writing in a secret place. You're gonna have to change your face. You're gonna have to change your face. You're gonna have to change your
Sexuality is boring. Build your houses on my grave. The blushing bride is so nervous. The guillotine, serious. This future was a fairy tale. Now it's withering before her eyes, before your eyes.
childhood was all a lie.
The groom should be the one that
I've got a message for the master race. You're about to be replaced. You're about to be replaced. You're about to be replaced. I see the writing in a secret place. You're gonna have to change your face. You're gonna have to change your face. You're gonna have to change your. I've got a message for the man in charge. You're about to be discharged. You're about to be discharged. You're about to be discharged. I see the future for the world at large. It's gonna have to fall apart. It's gonna have to fall apart. It's gonna have to fall apart.
one of these days I promise you. The other shoe will drop. The other shoe will drop. And the days will finish you. And I will hold them up. I will hold them up.
Wow. You just heard Dark Smith here on Audio Oasis on KEXP. That was incredible. That's a very powerful song.
Thank you.
Thank you for playing that. That was some borderline
Thank you
Sinead
for letting
O'Connor
us.
ripping the picture of the Pope on SNL kind of song.
That's exactly it.
I'm glad it happened on my show. So Darksmith is releasing their record, Digressive. The release date is set for May 24th.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
keep an ear out for that. You will not be disappointed. That song you just heard, Killer Whale, is on that record. And Darksmith is also going to be playing with Mudhoney and Control Test in our gathering space for Sonic Reducer's 15th anniversary celebration on May 4th. So join us for that. That is probably going to sell out. So get your tickets now. Thank you so much, Darksmith. You are seriously one of my favorite Seattle bands, and I'm so glad I got to do this with you all. You guys rock.
Love you, Eva.
Thank you so much. We love you. We love Audio Oasis and KEXP. Thank you so much.
But mostly Eva.
Thanks for listening, y'all. Thank you, Darksmith.
Discover new music at listener-powered KEXP.org.